Trumpet sounds of golden harps. I saw in a Zion these crystal balls of lightning, thundering different sorts. And 20 Haitians around these trumpet sounds of golden harps. I saw in a Zion these crystal balls of lightning, thundering different sorts. 420 Haitians around these parts. Trumpet sounds of golden harps. I saw in a Zion these crystal balls of lightning, thundering different sorts. 420 Haitians around these parts.
Behold, how good and pleasant it is when I and I dwell together in unity, just like the precious ointment upon the head running down the beard. Even I, my beard running down the skirts of the garden, as the dews of Vermont, as the dews that descend upon holding on to the night. You and living eye, Emperor Haile Selassie, I just Rastafari, even life right. We're giving thanks for this day, for the blessing, provision, the love, the guidance, the protection, all around Baltayana. Thankful for this day, we pray it be a strengthening unto we, body, mind, and soul. We thank for our ancestors, for generations of blood, sweat, and tears. Give us strength in these times, stand in light of the Most High. We're giving thanks for our elders, wise minds, knowledge, understanding, guiding I and I through these times. We're giving thanks for youth day. Their life and love is the light and hope for redemption, liberation, repatriation, in sight of the Most High. Giving thanks for I and I divine union, the foundation upon which I and I stand in the name of the Most High Just. Rastafari, Emperor Selassie, Empress Omega, Empress Minute. That blessings unto I and I, if it is in our highest good, and if it is in the highest good of all life everywhere, I and I pray thee that the hungry be fed, the naked clothed, the sick nourished, aged protected, the infants cared for. Guide I and I pray thee through disciplines, principles, morals, ethics, values, virtues that cultivate strong will and good character. With faith, courage, honor, and a just cause, with humility, tolerance, and compassion, with clean hands, with pure hearts. I and I, trotting along, steadfast upon, rolling through my king highway, guided by a bright morning star, never sleeping in with chance. Good over evil, love over hate, righteousness over the wicked, until righteousness covers the earth, as the waters cover the seas. May the words of I and I mouth, meditation of I and I arts, be acceptable in thy sight, O Most High, living up. Hear the mind, the last guy. All right. People, me people, so good to see these souls lined up, coming in to get your portion. Man, my man Ross Fred, he's a humble preacher. So until you really get to taste what he comes to offer, you would have never known this man is a heavy hitter. You know what I'm saying? A heavy hitter. So without further ado, my brothers, Keith Brother, 20 years plus, described it often. 2019, Nat Turner Award receiver for authors, the Nat Turner Library. You know what I'm saying? This man received that award last year. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yeah, he ain't banging on his desk, but come on now. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. And he's here to offer his blessing to us. Solomon, big up King, man. My royal hospitality, what you deal with, King. Royal hospitality, what you deal with. This is the first, but it won't be the last. Yeah, it won't be the last. Respect. All right, greetings everyone. Yes, before we begin, I do want to recognize the ancestors that is with us, you know. So remember they have forgotten, you know. Give thanks for getting us here safe, and guidance and protection. Elders in the house. Let me see. Who the elders out? We don't have to call them out. They ain't trying to, honor themselves. It's all good, but give thanks for allowing us to move forward, So, yeah, for those that are unaware of my works, for myself, like I said, I'm Ross Ben. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., but I've lived in Philadelphia for about the past 25 years. Really, the only title I wear under feeling proper is like I'm a student, but I am a 40-year student. I'm in my 41st year of studies. So, that comes with a certain level of awareness, studying your craft, studying your mystic tradition, 40 plus years. So that's who I am. And through my studies, I have been able to prepare some, some information to share in book format. One I'm most known for is Rocks of Ages, the original, which is on this cover here. This came out in 2000. It's its 20th anniversary this year. So December, when I return to Philly, I'm going to be reprinting the 20th anniversary edition. So y'all keep a lookout for that. I've seen copies on Amazon. I don't deal with Amazon. And so if you're not someone that's going to search the internet, it'll appear like all my works are out of print. Well, this one is out of print, but I've seen it on Amazon for like $800-900. So it will be available $33, next month. But this is the expanded reprint. Came out in 2008. It's not all about crystals though. It's Rocks of Ages. So I remember in 2008, it was 4 years looking at that 2012 phenomenon. And it was all this gloom and gloom, doomsday prophecy attached to it. And I felt we needed a different voice, a different angle on that thing. So I focused on the ages. I focused on the Kemetic star clock. I focused on the Olmec roots of the Mayan calendar. I looked at Dogon cosmology, Zulu tradition, different indigenous traditions, global, to see what their timekeeping system might say about this time, But what we see now in 2020, it was 2012 in the Gregorian calendar. It's 2012 in the Ethiopian calendar this year. And that's kind of what I'm going to reason on this evening, because Ross, right, he's calling it cop and flip. Y'all here for the gym show, but the brother lined up so many days here in Columbia. I wasn't going to come with the same thing every evening, But tonight, we're going to take like a 400-year journey, 400 by 400-year journey from Kemet to now. A view of history where we can really take responsibility for our reality in space-time. Because I don't know if y'all had an opportunity to see my 2020 on 2020 forecast, where we really talked about how this was a year of great conjunction. It's on my website, it's on my YouTube channel. But the long and the short of the 2020 is, again, you got to take responsibility for your place, condition, and space-time. It's not others or others' ancestors who are responsible for our place and condition. We ourselves, our ancestors. And it's time to, get out of that victim villain modality, because until you take responsibility, you're unable to respond. That's just what it is. And so if you want to be able to respond to your condition and place in space-time, right? Get right with universal law. Prerequisites to take responsibility. So we will get more into that. But 2018, I came out with the next work on the Great Mystery of Philadelphia. And a lot of what I'm going to reason on tonight is rooted in this. When you miss Philadelphia, it's a very mystic city. There's more public art in Philadelphia than any other city in the country. And the only other city with more public art in the world is Paris, France. But that art's not random. It's a great mystery encoded in it, And if we could say In a word, what is that great mystery? It's a swap of prophetic birthright. Philadelphia wasn't named Philadelphia because it means brotherly love out of play. Philadelphia was named Philadelphia because of Philadelphia place in biblical prophecy. When you look at Revelation chapter 3, the message to the 7 churches, 6 churches received judgment. Their message is like fire burning, judgment. There's one church or one community that receives a benevolent prophecy, and that's the Church of Philadelphia. And so William Penn's prayer in creating Philadelphia, he said Philadelphia was going to be a holy experiment. That is, the indigenous of the land, the Lenape, who were the grandfathers of the Algonquins. Okay? If they and William Penn and them boys can live together in oneness, his colony be saved on Judgment Day. And so that's why he named Philadelphia that. But ultimately, it was a manipulation of a prophetic timeline where they wanted to swap our prophetic birthright in such a way that that grace on Judgment Day falls on Rome. Okay? So their plan will work as long as we're not responsible. Y'all hear that? Mm. As long as we are in the victim-villain reality, we're not in the condition or space to fulfill our prophetic birthright. Mm-hmm. You know? So that's the great mystery of Philadelphia. Of course, 5G's hit the scene. Everybody had questions about 5G. I said, I gotta just give them a little, this is written for Aunt Clara and little Joey. They want to know what's up with 5G. 5G Wellness 101. And it really breaks down the most basic technology for 5G wellness, which is the crystal wire wrap, where families of crystals be aware of how to craft them, and also make us aware of the specs of the human body. You get your computer, it gets your little manual, tells you the voltage, the wattage, the megahertz, the gigahertz. What's our frequency? What's our polarity? We need to know our own specs. So that's kind of the 5G wellness. My last works, free your mind and your mind will follow. Y'all know Colombia's capital is built on a map, right? Most major cities, they built on mounds. Why? What's this thing about the mound? And why, when people, once they build these edifices on the mound, the indigenous in the area start acting weird? What's up? So free your mind. And it's designed to be a companion for the Great Mystery of Philadelphia. I should mention, right before I get all into it, I got a next work coming out, probably January of 2021. Creator Willing. It's in editing, image mode, but it has been written. That's the knowledge of the know. So that Creator Willing, early 20. Knowledge of the know. Yeah, we're basically decoding Dogon cosmology. So I'm excited about it coming out. And I did want to mention that, right? But we got to find that angle of history that's going to allow us to see how we're responsible beyond what's kind of making it doubly relevant now. It's not only are we, 400 years out of Jamestown, but what's happening astrologically right now. This past Friday was a major planetary alignment. November 13th with Saturn, Jupiter, Pluto conjunction. So now all the way up to December 21st, we're kind of in that great conjunction season, where it culminated with a direct Jupiter-Saturn conjunction at 0 degrees Aquarius. long and the short of it, if I could just say, what does these conjunctions say? It's time to take responsibility from the place and condition of space-time. Stay in a victim, villain paradigm. You're going to grow to regret it. You're going to wish you would have just said, yo, me or my ancestors, somebody I'm accountable for is responsible for this reality, moving that light. Holding others responsible, holding others accountable, holding others as villains, if you're a victim reality, it's not, that paradigm's not going to work. It's not going to work going into 2021. You know? We said what this time is, like this great conjunction right now, we wanted to articulate it. The rulers of space and time are uniting with the ultimate inevitable. So we all got an inevitability in our life based on how we move it. Or is it inevitable? What's the change? Our perspective, our paradigm, our decision making. We can alter our destiny. Right? This is the time we really got to check our paradigms, check our belief systems. Are they serving us? What ultimate inevitable are they leading us to? Is it an inevitability we want to face? If not, what paradigms, belief systems do we have to deconstruct, reconstruct? We don't have a lot, it's now time. Mm-hmm. This ain't no something I'm going to journal, right, and meditate on after 6 lunar cycles. Nah, this is like now time. In the Ethiopian calendar, this is 2012, right? And those great conjunctions I was talking about, the last one is on December 21st. And if you remember when it was Gregorian 2012, it was supposed to be December 21st when things jumped off, right? But ain't nothing popped. It was just any other day, people kind of, like how the news cycle, not really stay in our awareness too long, right? But man, here we are, 2020, Gregorian 2020. Yo, hasn't this year been like what we say 2012? We might see, you think about how the fires were out west. It's November, we having hurricanes still, right? Y'all had something blow through here last week, right? Or this week. Charlotte, yeah. Charlotte had something blow through there last week. It's November, right? It's just been the pandemic, it's just been so much. Yeah, so we should revisit that Soul King, that Mayan Calendar days, get that back in our awareness, And so, real quick, so the Mayan Soul King, his count of days. There was a count of days, and 1,872,000 count of days. It started August 11th, 3114 BC. We know, if you're in Solomon's Temple, you know what's significant about that date. That's more than likely around the beginning of dynastic Kemet. Okay? And within the Soul King, you got these sub-cycles, right? The largest one is called a Baktun. It's 144,000 days, equal about 394 years. We round it off and say 400 years. So there's 13 Baktuns in the Mayan calendar, right? So 13 400-year cycles that start around the beginning of dynastic Kemet. The next largest cycle is called a Katun, 7,200 days, or about 20 years. Closest thing we know of to a score, right? The Katun, I think I'm running ahead of myself. I'm not mistaken. But then the next cycle we'll just mention is called the Tune. It's the closest thing we know a year, 360 days. There's 5,200 tunes and soaking, right? quick astrological correspondences. The soul king in its totality is 1/5 of the great year, 26,000 year precession of the equinox. You know how we are on the cusp of leaving out of the age of Pisces, moving into the age of Aquarius, right? And that's a reference to the great year. It's got 12 great months, each about 2,100 change years, right? The soul king is 1/5 of that. If you multiply 1,872,000 days times 5, you get 9,360,000. And if you divide that by 365, it's about 25,000, 26,000 years. You know, round off, 25,000. The Baktun corresponds, or that 400 years, corresponds to the longest planetary cycle in our solar system, which is Neptune-Pluto conjunction. They occur about every 400 years, 394 years. Last time that conjunction occurred was 1892. And that was the year His Imperial Majesty was born, right? That's why, from my angle, this man he has many titles, you know, King of Kings, but he's the mystic revealer too. That if you study history, mystery, and prophecy, the angle of His Majesty, you get deep insight, you know, because he was born at this pivotal time. That, you know, more or less that was sealing up celestially the 400-year cycle, you know. And for many in this room, he was a contemporary, you know. So what is it about these 400 years? What's up with it? I think that longest celestial cycle in our solar system is connected to universal law. And every 400 years, you got to account, you and your bloodline, you got to account for how y'all stand with universal law. Not the laws of man, but the laws of creation. If you're in Solomon Temple, you know universal law. All right? It's some call it Hermetic law. If you want the primer on it, that's the Kabbalion. Y'all, everybody in here knows the Kabbalion, right? Yes. That's Mystic 101, you know? So every 400 years, you come to a point where it ain't about anyone else. It's you and universal law. That's what's up with the 400 years. We wanted to articulate that, right? In terms of universal law, we would say through our use of free will, that's the law of consciousness, right? And we create our reality with our use of free will. Through the use of free will and decision making, we or ones of our bloodline enacted historical events that create our current state. That's the law of cause and effect, as well as the apparent opposition facing us. That's the law of polarity, which says really everything is one. But in this realm, it expressed as dynamic polar opposites. And that dynamic relationship can either be antagonistic or complementary, depending on the perspective, right? Continued polarized consciousness will augment the apparent opposition. That is the law of gender. It says when you have two poles and they interact, what energy, right? And there comes a time, there comes a cycle when bloodline karma can be identified and reconciled. That time, that cycle is 400 years. Okay? So this is where we at, you know? And it's no coincidence that we 400 years out of Jamestown, at the same time we have in this Capricorn stellium, saying for everyone, yo, it's time to take responsibility for your place in the condition of space-time, you know? And why do we say our bloodline? Because I know there's some incarnate here in 2020 that feel like within themselves, they got so much innocence within them that they don't feel that they deserve their place or their condition in space-time, right? That lends to the victim identity. But the reality is, our parents don't choose us. Our parents don't look up in the heavens and say, yo, I want that soul right there. The choice, the free will choice, is on our side pre-incarnate. And we usually choose as a portal those that we're connected to through bloodline and karma, to learn lessons, to reconcile. So you here in 2020 with a reality that's challenging, chose to be here, and not to seal up your own karma, that in the bloodline. That's what time it is, you know? And again, the quicker we accept that and move with that paradigm, we'll be aligned with the flow of space-time. More synchronicity, more magi, more the potential, the probability to create the reality that you want will be at your hand, you know? That's what time it is. So look, he said that Baktun started 3114 around the beginning of dynastic Kemet, right? That was the first Baktun, first 400-year cycle. There's 13 of them. Why the 13th Baktun start 1618? I think that's very significant. The first Baktun started at the beginning of dynastic Kemet, right? And a lot of us, right, who just by their nature, in their DNA, and once it's activated, we all Kemet, all eyes on Kemet, right? But the first Baktun started, we were in dynastic Kemet. The 13th and final Baktun starts 1618, 1 year before Jamestown. And basically, we're at the end of the 400-year completion of the 13th Baktun. That was the Jamestown timeline. The Jamestown for us. The Jamestown timeline was the 13th and final Baktun. I can't accept that that's coincidence. That the first Baktun starts with dynastic Kemet. The 13th Baktun starts with Jamestown. And so what that tells me is that those Baktuns, it's a lens, it's a 400-year timeline lens, that if we use it, we can identify why we're responsible for our place and condition in space-time. We look where each Baktun begins. What were we doing? What was happening at that time? We know why we responsible for the Jamestown time. And so I'm not going to get all in this. I hope to inspire you to look at our history from this perspective, because this is real. Okay, a couple of things with like what we would say, the African-centered or the Afrocentric lens of history. One, we tend to look at Kemet as being monolithic. That the ones in Manetfor, Memphis, were working with the ones in Thebes, and the ones with Thebes working with the ones in Heliopolis. No, it wasn't like that. There was what we could say good boys and bad boys in Kemet. And they waged major wars that we know historically as the first and second intermediate periods. I'll get into some of the details on that, right? But Kemet was not monolithic. There was good boys and bad boys in it. And the consequences of the wars that we fought has a lot to contribute to the space-time reality we're in today. Okay? So I will just give like a quick summary, but I'm hoping to inspire y'all to go and do this research yourself. Don't believe Ross. Please go and check this out. All right? Dynastic Kemet, or archaic Kemet, when it was founded, was actually a revolt against, we would say, the one letter in Kemet who was really about our wellness, and that was Asaf. The archaic Kemet was founded. Men from Memphis, from the Nephil, named after, and Ptah, they overthrew the Assyrian Empire. And they did it. The Assyrian Empire was centered in what we would call Sahara at this time. And the way Men and Ptah overthrew the Assyrians was by, believe it or not, the Nile didn't always flow straight into the Mediterranean. The Nile flowed up to what is near the city called Abdu or Abdos, and it turned back into the African continent. And Ptah and Men blocked off the Nile, so it didn't turn back into the Sahara, increasing the desertification. Desert, did I say that? Y'all know what I'm saying. And made the Nile flow straight into the Mediterranean. Okay? So they were really the Thebans. Like if you want this angle, you want to study the Theban cosmology. Thebes is the Greek name for Pedisut, Waset, and Khnum. These were the holy centers of who we would probably say we was aligned with them. Okay? So study the Theban perspective. The Thebans created a revolt in the 11th and 12th dynasties because of this. You know? And they had a long-standing, like thousands of years, beef with Ptah and his boys of Memphis because of this. You know? The second Baktun started when the Old Kingdom came into being. Third Baktun, this is when these wars first started jumping off, the first intermediate period. Okay? And the Memphites, their dynastic control collapsed. This known Netter named Harishat of the 20th Nome rose up and kind of took over Lower Kemet, right? This is when the Thebans initiated their first revolt, and it resulted in followers of Harishat being expelled. That's why we don't hear much of Harishat in, like the accounting of pharaohs and, dynastic Kemet. But what happened was they fled throughout the Mediterranean. Harishat in Greek is known as Hercules. Okay? And they established a kingdom near what's called Tarshish or Gibraltar, right? That's why the rocks of Gibraltar used to be called the Pillars of Hercules. Hercules is Harishat. And basically, the Western European, those who they would say are the followers of Thor, right? The Northern Europeans, as well as our Thor. Okay, if you see a mythic account of someone like only they can pick up a hammer, or only they can pull a sword out of a stone, these followers of Harishat are apparent. Some would say are apparent opposition today. Okay, these battles continued through the fourth Baktun. This is where you have the official Theban revolt, where Amun-Ra is coming to restore the Assyrian order throughout the entire Nile Valley, right? And they culminated the battle. They won. The followers of Amun-Ra won. And what was their strategy to prevent the Memphite order from reascending to power? They locked them in the Caucasus or Cascades Mountains. What do we call those mountains today? The Caucasus Mountains. So the followers of Ptah, the Memphites, were imprisoned in the Caucasus Mountains by the followers of Amun-Ra, the culmination of the second intermediate period. And who apparent opposition came out of that? Caucasian. Okay? So this is where this long view of history is. Shows roots of modern drama, modern conflict. You know, I'm gonna fast forward just to let y'all know. Herodotus. If you want to source men redirecting the course of the Nile so it no longer went into Saharan Africa, Herodotus accounts for it. Okay, and here is a map of pre-Mythite Africa in the flow of the Nile. And let me get my bearings. Yeah, here's the Nile. See it flows back into Libya from a couple of angles. Okay, so the Theban perspective, if you want to like do a Google search, Theban perspective, Theban cosmology, the relationship between Thebes and Memphis. You know, that's what you want to look into. These are some of the Netter who were associated with Isfet or chaos, unma'atic behavior within Kemet, Khnum, Ptah, and his high priest Imhotep. I know that's a her piece. We want to love Imhotep, but the reality is the pharmacopoeia of Imhotep is the root of the biomedical nightmare we're experiencing today. His practices was adopted in Hellenistic Greece and Rome, and here we are. Okay? Men, I already mentioned that. Mentioned him. Atum, Set, and the serpents, followers of Set, Apap, and Arashad. All right? The upholders of Ma'at, Amen Ra, Mut, Sekmet, Kansu, Anku, Happy, and Aru. So these would be the natural, we would say we would more or less be aligned with our wellness, you know? So this brings up another point, another angle we tend to have. When we see Kemetic iconographics in popular culture, we say, oh, they steal it. Maybe they're just telling us who they really are. These boys of Ptah, these Memphites, you know? One of the things the Great Mystery Philadelphia reveals, from their perspective, the Clash of the Titans continues. The Clash of the Titans is not over. And this battle is what in Greek is, and another angle. A lot of African-centered scholars consider all of Greek teaching, Greek writings, and all a stolen legacy. It's not all stolen. There was a Thebes in the Greek islands. Okay, Orpheus was basically a griot of the Thebans, and he is the source of what they call what came down. Their thing is the Titanomachy, the Clash of the Titans. You see, Bollywood does a good job on this in terms like if I say the Clash of the Titans was the story of dynastic Kemet. The vision of the Clash of Titans I have is the old one with the claymation, right? But I know they upgraded it, right? But that's how Hollywood, who is the award winner of Hollywood Ptah, and Ptah Seker, who was honored at Memphis, was the ruler of the past, present, and future. What does Hollywood do? It gives us a different image of the past, and their projected hope for the future. And the award of that is the Oscar. You know? So when we see these things, right, I already mentioned, what is the symbol for modern medicine? The caduceus. And we know that that's Imhotep's staff. I want to show these last Baktuns real quick. Just to show you how, nobody else is responsible for us but ourselves. Okay? 8 Baktuns started around Hellenistic Greece. when you study Alexander the Great, the Thebans empowered Alexander the Great. The Greek. Alexander the Greek. Thank you. Okay? They empowered him because they wanted him to assist in continuing locking the followers of Ptah in the Caucasus Mountains. Okay? So Alexander accomplished that by building the gates of Alexander. Study the gates of Alexander, which was one of his greatest accomplishments, which was basically, it's legend to be a magical wall that kept the followers of Baktun in the Caucasus Mountains. Okay, this is also accounted for in the Quran. 41 AD, we empowered Rome. Okay, the totem for Harishad is Uapep, the gray wolf, who suckled Romulus and Remus. She wolf. Okay, and that's why Hercules was the most acclaimed god of Rome. But this is where our culpability comes in. Because who gets down with Rome today? Anybody get down with Rome? Well, no, I mean, like, do you want to get down with Rome? You consider Rome apparent opposition? Most do. I do. You know? But the reality is, in 435, 430, it was 437, 2 years after this Baktun started, the 10th Baktun, the Goths from the Caucasus Mountains destroyed classical Rome. Exactly. Okay? Classical Rome was destroyed by the Goths of the Caucasus Mountains, who resurrected Rome in 800 AD. Moors, Charlemagne, Franco Moors. Okay? And they set up an economic system to kind of get back at the Goths, what you would call a trans-European enslavement, where they take the Goths out of the Caucasus Mountains, ship them down the belt, the boot of Italy, and from various ports in the Mediterranean, sell them off in bondage, globally. The customer bought the most was Turkey, Eastern Rome, Byzantine. Okay? 1200 AD, beginning of the 12th Baktun, the German Moors expanded the Franco-Moor economic system of trans-European enslavement. End of this 12th Baktun is 1618. Here we are in Jamestown. And when you study, and see, here's the angle. All right, let's because I know some like, let's drop these jewels to help you and this inspiration to follow up with this. All right, here is Alexander the Greek in 332 BC. He visited Theban priests. By this time, Waset had been sacked and destroyed by the Assyrians and the Persians. You said 332? Yes. So Nicaea was right around them time too, then, right? No, it's about 600 years. That's AD. Oh, this is BC. Okay. Right? But Thebes in the Nile Valley have been sacked. The Theban priesthood moved west into the Sahara and set up in an oasis called Silva. Right? Alexander the Great went and met with them in 332 BC. They empowered the man. They gave him the money, resource, and the protocol to take over northern Kemet, create what they call the Macedonian or Ptolemaic dynasties. And the condition they gave him, you can have Lower Kemet if you build the gates of Alexander, okay, you gotta read these. Read about this. Inform yourself. It's a legendary barrier supposedly built to keep the uncivilized barbarians of the North Caucasus from invading the land to the south. The wall is also known as the Caspian Gates. This was the other side of the Great Wall of China. They couldn't just wall them in from the south. They had to wall them in from the north and the east. And that is what the Great Wall of China, which was built around the same time frame. That was the ultimate intention of that. Okay? Yeah, we already mentioned the she-wolf was Uapep. The gray wolf totem of Harishak. You know how Thor got two dogs he rolls with? Right? This is Uapep. The gray wolf. This is the Dogon's pale fox. Okay? So, don't hurt nobody, Ross, baby. I'm not even hurting. But as far as the Moorish legacy in Europe, many people say the Moorish legacy in Europe starts with Cordoba 711 AD. But they're overlooking 700 years of a Christian Moorish legacy that ultimately goes back to Saint Maurice and the Theban legions of Egypt, who were mercenary troops hired by some of the most notorious Roman emperors. So Moors, the name Moors comes from Saint Maurice, and he was the patron saint of the Roman Empire for about 800 years. Okay? I'm not making this up. Please don't believe any of this. Go and research it. Okay? The Theban legions of Saint Maurice. So when the Goths came in 476, this is who they overran. 800, and right here are these, 800 AD, around them, who resurrected Rome? These same Moors. Charlemagne the Great, Moorish ancestry. Okay? And yeah, they resurrected Rome. We resurrected Rome. I guess that's why we're saying, like, this is why this information is important. Right? Accountability. And the thing, let me say this because I don't want it to appear like I'm coming at the Moors. We, if we're in the same condition, at the same space-time, we got the same karmic dynamics. We got the same ancestries, right? Whatever activates in you in this incarnation. Sometimes we incarnate the Israelite incarnations with it. Sometimes we incarnate the Kemetic, right? The Moorish. But we all know we all want, no matter what is activated in us. This right here, right now. Right. You want to research on black Moors? And these are these German Moors. They was like, when we was in Germany, yeah, we was bad for what we was like. We were behaving the way we say our villains are treating us today. And black Moors, Schwarzenegger means black nigga, And so, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger? Why is he wearing a Moorish title? What's up with that? That big gap. Explain that. Explain, That big gap in front of his mouth. And Schwartz top, the blackhead. Here's Charlemagne, the father of modern Europe. This is his title. Charlemagne is known in history as the father of modern Europe. And he calls them crusades against the pagans. But basically, he had a policy of capturing Goths, shipping them to the Mediterranean in bondage, and prospering on that thing. Here is Otto I and his queen Edith. These are the Moors who founded the German house. of the Moorish Empire. Okay? Here, this guy right here. Otto Bamberg. This is the guy who commissioned many of the churches of Europe. Again, this is where let's think about our perspective a minute. Because what's all in the churches of Europe? Black Madonna. Black Madonnas, Saint Maurices, Black Saint Maurices, right? All of these images are in the churches of Europe. And when we see those, what do we say? Y'all know what we say. Come on. They know who is God, right? They know black woman is God, right? But what do we say when we see white Jesus in Africa? What do we say when we see white Jesus in Africa? That they're using an image of the divine that Africans can't identify with, so that they don't see themselves in the divine image and are therefore disempowered. Right? Isn't that what we say when we see white Jesus in Africa? Right? But we don't think that maybe the wars of Europe, with their use of the Black Madonna, their use of Saint Maurice, was using that same tactic of oppression. Mind control. Perspective is skewed. And that's what, see, Ma'at is real. Universal law, we had that 400 years. It ain't about the feel-good books. It's about what's up with universal law. The tit for the tat. Karma is real. Here's some other Moors. This dude, Frederick Barbarossa, he really expanded that pipeline coming down the route of Italy. Made that like a big money maker for the Moors of Europe. This man also, Johannes Dictus. Here's just images of Moors rocking the insignias of the Vatican. Okay, we were the money lenders of Europe. This is why we had to armor up. You saw a dude armored up from head to toe with jewels adorning his armor. He was a money lender. And he didn't want no one just rolling up on him, so he was well armored. Next one. And we point out the vulture. Okay? So the banner that the Theban Legion oppressed Rome under was the black vulture. Okay. Who was the black vulture of Thebes? It was Mut. The Nectar Mut. And that's who Khonsu, that's the totem. Khonsu, Saint Maurice, all of them conquered the forces of the Ptahwit. All right? The black vulture. Now, this is Saint Maurice, the Blackamoor. Here is the main German house, responsible for that expansion. The House of Habsburg. We see what their coat of arms is, the black vulture. Okay? And this is something we go in depth with the Great Mystery Philadelphia. Like, if you want one source of the 800 years of Europe and how to put us here, penetrate that heavily in the Great Mystery. Yes, sir. The Moor's head was the coat of arms for Pope Benedict. Explain that. What's up with that? Why are they rocking the Moor's head? Or are they actually descendants? Okay. And just real quick, most houses of Europe were Moorish. The main house of the Goths, whenever they intermarried into the Moorish bloodline, they hyphenated Gotha at the end. So Saxe Coburg Gotha is the name, is the original name of the House of Windsor. Okay? King and Queen of England. Now. So if you want to trace what we would call the Magna Coagula, the Great Coagulation, where it took our bloodline, it took our prophetic birthright, but they kept the Gothic appearance. All that's detailed in the Great Mystery. All right, here's the Black Madonna. Here's some images of the actual bondage. Moors selling and buying women of the Caucasus. They were sold primarily for harems. Here's a Moorish bathhouse with them available. Here is a Moorish merchant attempting to sell a woman from the Caucasus to a Turkish sultan. Okay? So we got 800 years of this. And Ma'at is real, you know? Yeah, I think I've run my mouth enough. All right? Y'all were good because trust me, I know it takes more than listening to speak. And I know I'm not a fiery speaker. So thank you for, hanging in there. I hope this inspires you to do some real research about why is our reality what it is. Let's, help inform ourselves how we are responsible, so we can be responsible. All right? Yes, I. So give thanks. Columbia. Yes.